This is Konganaya outside of Demico, the western pavement of Demico, and they are of course performing some cultural shoots Saturday morning. Welcome to another program of BUXTONIAN Morning Time. I am your host, KAMSTV. It is now 7 hours 21 in this dear land of Guyana, a land of many waters, and it's raining cats and dogs. And so long as it rains cats and dogs in the land of many waters, we're going to get rain a fall, bucket a drop. You're going to get water in kitchen and cook. And so a lot of people are in flooded situations as we speak. Yes. Water the hole. I trust that you had a productive day yesterday, a restful night last night. I hope many of you didn't have to get out of your sleeps during the night to pack up your furnishings and other things like you became accustomed to under the PPP 23 years plus. And then you came to that point where you could sleep through the night despite the fact that it is raining animals. And here again, when the rain smiles, the place floods. And so I hope you had a restful night last night and didn't have to be awakened by the rains. As a matter of fact, as a youngster growing up, I know the heavier it rains, the tighter the sleep. You wrap up tighter in your sheets and so on. And those who have light blankets will wrap up tighter with those. But the whole story is, times have changed. For 23 years under the former PPP administration, once it rains, chaos. All Mississippi wet up. People wake up to floating fridges and other things in their homes, furnishings. People step out of their bed into a stream. That was happening under the PPP for the last 23 years while they were in power. But thanks to Patterson and the coalition, a lot of that was changed over time. When the fat guy and his cohorts took over in August, they tried to give us the impression that they care and they can deal with flooding and they can maintain drainage and irrigation canals and so on. It was such a frightening thing for the fat guy, for the nation to see a return to their homes being flooded out, that the man used to wake up in the middle of his sleep and go and check on pump attendants. Y'all remember? Well, I am sure many of us are wishing now that he was still checking on pump attendants. But the fat guy has become comfortable, gouging off of the state's resources and sleeping comfortably in facilities provided for by the state. And so while the fat guy sleeps and his cohorts sleep, the ordinary citizens are having sleepless nights because it's raining heavily and drainage and irrigation canals are not properly maintained, and equipment to assist in keeping drainages up to par are either malfunctioning, have disappeared, and so on and so forth. But this is Ghana. It's the 10th of December. This raining will spoil nobody's Christmas. All of you, all of us, every single body will get a wonderful Christmas. Rain or no rain, check Regent Street later in the day. People are going to put on their galoshes. Is that what it's called? We call them long boots. Other people call them galosh. Is that the name? Or galosh is the umbrella? I know parasol is umbrella. Right? Yes, galoshes, Dickinson's, gumshoes, rubbers, overshoes, whatever you want to call it. A lot of people will put them on. And they're going to go up and down Regent Street looking for ways and means to spend what you ain't got. Like I say, a lot of you will be putting your hats so your hand can't reach now. So them say. But that's not why I'm here this morning. I'm here for us to talk about fixing GCOM. Let's fix GCOM. Fixing GCOM. That's the topic for today. What's happening over at GCOM? Well, a lot has been happening. From August 2 to now, the PPP was busy fixing GCOM. I don't know how many of you paid attention to the fact that they were fixing GCOM. And I want to tell you that when they finish fixing GCOM, woe beyond the opposition political parties in this country. Woe beyond to them. It is going to be a total shutout. We will fix GCOM and we are going to have a wonderful one-party state. And then we will start digging some Putin and Castros in y'all. Right? Then is when you're going to know if the PPP is really communist or capitalist. As a matter of fact, I believe there could be some communist capitalists or some communist capitalists. Because every day we are seeing some commonness going on in this country with the PPP as they exhibit a capitalist mentality. So we got some communists as capitalists. And so you're going to see more of it. Let's fix GCOM. So let's talk about how GCOM has been fixed or is being fixed. The PPP declared earlier clock, we ain't going to know elections with the current secretariat. Lowenfield must go. Myers must go. Mingo must go. All of those senior officers and some juniors in the secretariat must go. We got to clean up GCOM. We got to get rid of the people who can stand in between us and what we want. And so we're going to give them all kinds of labels, and we are going to campaign day and night to get them out. And campaign they did. And got rid of them they did. Right? Chief among the campaigners was the man whose wife is now saying that he don't mind the picnic. He got a couple picnic and he ain't minding them. But he dressing up in suit and tie and waxed lyrical in public and got plenty followers. Right? That was one of the main campaigners. Good? The other one sat at Ministry of Social Services for years under the PPP in the last government. And there's nothing social about her. She's one of the most brash, uncouth human beings I've ever come across. But that aside, they found favor with the Madam Chair. And they got rid of all who they wanted to get rid of from the Secretariat, at least up to this time. And so they're fixing GCOM. Having gotten rid of those at the Secretariat, they're now advertising, or they have advertised for the replacement for some of those. Well, you know, the PPP got away stacking the deck. And so the deck was stacked. It was stacked with Vishnu Prasad, it was stacked with Gokul Buru, and others favorable to the PPP. They set a criteria, they set a bar so high. That's what Simmons, you like mind people business. Who don't mind their picnic? That is news by now. It is the mayor commissioner at GCOM that is not an opposition commissioner, he's a government commissioner. They say you can't lay by your whistle. But anyhow, they set out to stack the Secretariat. And so they set a bar so high that only those in love, those in bed with the PPP could qualify. Only those in bed with the PPP could qualify. That's what they thought. But thanks to Vincent Alexander and Desmond Trotman and Charles Corbin, they insisted that, you know what? These vacancies must be advertised far and wide throughout the Caribbean, internationally. So we don't have to stick to Guyanese alone applying for this job. So when they thought that only those that they baptized would have made the cut for final selection, they were wrong. Because you had some international applicants. You have a man out of Jamaica, I think his name is Haro. I'll tell you about him just now. So Vishnu, well, early o'clock, pressure from folks like yours truly and the other talk show opposition elements forced Boudou to pull out prematurely and disappear. So Boudou said, I can't bear the heat in this kitchen, I'm going to pull out prematurely and disappear. And he did exactly that. Boudou pulled out. So he didn't stick around to do bad things to Guyanese people supported by the PPP. I don't know if it was a prick of conscience or it was too much pressure to bear. But Boudou pulled out and he left. Vishnu Prasad, however, remained in the race along with some others, including the man from Jamaica. And so they went through the different phases of selection. As a matter of fact, as they were shortlisting, they came to realize that there were some people who didn't make the cut at all. And so they should be discarded. But the PPP commissioners, enabled and bolstered by the chairman that swung, argued and insisted and used their majority to allow some people to go through. But when push come to shove, it came down to two persons. Right? It came down to two persons. At first, there were three. There were 3. And I will share with you a letter from somebody named something White or something like that. Sam White. Obviously, I think that's a pseudonym. I don't think it's the right name. But this person wrote to Village Voice. And he is saying Deodat Prasad was unfairly treated. Remember Deodat Prasad. So it's Vishnu Prasad, is Deodat Prasad. Like they had a lot of Prasads in the race. Anyhow, let me share the letter for you. Because the letter will have a bearing on the rest of the discussions that we will have about fixing GCOM. Dear editor, I, like many Guyanese, was shocked when GCOM presented its top 2 candidates for the post of CEO. Worse than indeed an insult to anyone's intelligence is the conclusion that one candidate in that list is the deemed most qualified for the post. It is my belief that Mr. Deodat Prasad was not fairly treated in deriving this list. Allow me to explain. From the education standpoint, Mr. Deodat Prasad is most qualified. In the advertisement published by GCOM, it was specific in asking for a postgraduate degree in public administration, law, or a related field. For Mr. Prasad LinkedIn profile, not only does he have a master's degree in public administration, but as an asset, he has one in business administration also. Mr. Leslie Harrow holds a master's in public administration only. However, Mr. Vishnu Prasad does not have a master's in the field requested by GCOM. A master's in business administration is clearly non-relatable to the work of the commission. Besides, Mr. Vishnu Prasad is not the holder of even a bachelor's degree. He holds a level 5 certificate. According to the National Qualifications Authority of UK, it qualifies the level 5 certificate as HNDs, NVQs, BTEC, professional diplomas, certificates and awards, foundation degrees, diploma of higher education, equivalent. The same source notes that it only a level 6 certificate. It is only a level 6 certificate which is considered a bachelor's degree. Besides, the duration for a level 5 certificate is 2 years, whereas for a degree it is 3 years. From the above, it remains a mystery as to the reasons Mr. Vishnu Prasad was deemed qualified academically from among the current set of applicants. Y'all note, take note, this writer is saying that when you put the education, certification, qualification for these 3 persons together, Deodat Prasad, Vishnu Prasad, and Mr. Harrow, what Harrow is he? Right? Vishnu Prasad is the least qualified because he doesn't have a bachelor's degree and his master's in business administration really has no impact on what GCOM requires. Right? GCOM is asking for a degree in public administration. I want to point out one thing here with Mr. the writer. He's arguing that business administration has nothing to do with what GCOM is asking for. But he's using business administration to put Deodat Prasad ahead of the other candidates. Everybody got a race or got a horse in the race, so they will do whatever is necessary, right? Good. So, based on this argument, if business administration has nothing to do with what GCOM is asking for, then it means Vishnu Prasad is the least qualified still, But Mr. Harrow and Deodat Prasad, perhaps, just perhaps, are on the same plane because they both have the degree in public administration, etc. In terms of experience, Mr. Vishnu Prasad, again, quoting from his LinkedIn profile, has been a PR, that's public relation assistant to the chairman. These roles are not managerial. The question is simple. How many persons did Vishnu Prasad manage in this role, direct or indirectly? His 3 short years as DCEO, while may be the senior role he had with the commission, this is inadequate as per GCOM requirements. Did GCOM consider Mr. Vishnu Prasad and Mr. Deodat Prasad's performance appraisals in making this decision? Remember, GCOM said you had to have 10 years. And so Vishnu, according to this letter writer, only has 3, acting as DCO. Right? Important questions must be asked as the number of people he managed in reality. If Mr. Vishnu Prasad's years as a PRO can be added to among his 10 years experience, then Mr. Deodat Prasad years as Assistant Registration Officer at a permanent registration office must also count. Mr. Harrow functions at a zonal office, the equivalent to the one Mr. Deodat Prasad currently serves. If Mr. Harrow application was considered due to his experience, why wasn't Mr. Deodat Prasad's? Given that he served in the same level, except in different country. Let's not forget that Mr. Prasad served as a commissioner in a national body for 3 years, gaining him strategic leadership experience. According to GCOM's website, an assistant registration officer's roles are as follows. Ensures responsibility to the registration officer for the management of his or her sub-office. Determines the validity of registration applications in the relevant registration divisions with respect to transactions. Assists the registration officer in the conduct of staff development sessions. Assists the registration officer in the management of the office. Assists the registration officer in the management. Assists the registration officer in the submission and receipt of registration transactions and reports. Assist the registration officer in the maintenance of transaction ledgers. Conduct periodic reconciliation of records. Undertake the functions of the registration officer in his or her absence. How could someone who was exposed to the above for over 16 years be excluded? The above clearly shows that Mr. Deodat Prasad and his office functioned in a senior capacity, just under the registration officer. This is senior the office he is assigned. If one is to look at the organization chart, imagine the number of persons under Mr. Prasad's supervision during a temporary activity. Let's look at his role as Deputy Returning Officer. GCOM list as following. The DRO reports to the returning officer and is responsible for the operation of a group of polling stations or for a sub-district. He or she is expected to organize and supervise the arrangements for polling stations. Ensure that all polling officials appointed have the skills for the effective and efficient performance of their duties. Promptly report matters of concern to the returning officer. Ensure that all election materials are made available to polling stations in sufficient quantities and on time. Disseminate official information throughout his district. Visit polling stations before election day with returning officers and presiding officer. Visit polling stations in his or her sub-district on election day and give feedback to the returning officer. Advice and guidance to the presiding officer and other polling officials. Receive results of the poll from presiding officers. Transmit results of the poll to returning officer immediately. Ensure that all postings and publications are taken down as soon as practicable after election day. ensure that all election materials or the fixtures and ballot boxes are promptly remitted to the returning officer, and performing other duties related to the conduct of poll as required by the returning officer. How can a person with all the above exposure at the grassroots level, with all institutional knowledge gained over 16 years, does not make the cut for the CEO post? The GCAM system is clearly subjective and bent on producing candidates the commissioners prefer rather than the most qualified. Moving forward, GCAM needs to correct this wrong perpetrated against Mr. Deodat Prasad. It is interesting to ask how many CEOs in the past needed to have 10 years experience in senior elections role. If elections is every 5 years, then to gain such truly, one needs to wait for 10 elections, equal to 50 years. Such candidate will be over 70 years old. Is this thinking? Sam White, right? Sam White, that's Sam White for you. Now, the writer says that it's clear that GCAM's method of selection of candidates is subjective. The coalitions or the opposition commissioners argued against that subjective process. They argued that the commissioners should not participate in the process. They should farm this out to some human resource agency to conduct the interviews and so on, and select the appropriate candidate. Of course, again, the PPP had their way because Claudette joined with them and said, nah, it's not going to happen. We will do it. And so it was done. The decks were stacked. The PPP hoped that they were going to get Buru. And when Buru pulled out prematurely, their hopes rested on Vishnu Prasad. And so even when Vishnu Prasad turned up short, couldn't make the mark, the evidence is there in the letter. And if you think the evidence is there only in the letter, let me tell you, I got my sources. Right? I got my sources. And based on information received by my sources, the evidence presented in the letter is quite right. Right? And those of you who have good institutional memory will remember that when Vishnu Prasad applied for the DCO position, then Chairman Patterson opted for Roxanne Myers because he said Roxanne Myers was head and shoulders above Vishnu Prasad in terms of qualification and experience. The PPP made a whole set of noise. But here again, in a new round of advertisements for hiring senior officers, Vishnu Prasad has turned up short. It is not Patterson who is the chairman now. It is Claudette, the woman that they say swung, and the woman that has certainly been taking the sides of the PPP commissioners from August 2 to now. There's no question about that. If you look at her decision making, you look at some of the things she votes for along with the PPP, then you will know that she's taking sides. And so I'm saying I have relevant information in relation to Vishnu Prasad's certification qualification. And this did not come from LinkedIn. I can tell you that. This did not come from LinkedIn. It came from reliable sources. So it's not just a matter of what Vishnu Prasad put up on LinkedIn. That is present there. But there are other ways and means of verifying that. And I'm saying that Sam White is on the button when he says that Vishnu Prasad is the least qualified of the final picks. And so they got rid of Deodat Prasad. And the race now is between Vishnu Prasad and Mr. Harrow. Mr. Harrow is Jamaican. And so if Sam White is arguing as he presented the evidence that Vishnu Prasad is the least qualified of the three, then it is natural that Mr. Harrow is much more qualified than Vishnu Prasad. And the evidence is there also, because I have it, to show that based on experience, Mr. Harrow comes out at the head of the line when it comes to Vishnu Prasad. Ordinarily, it would have been the end of the road for Vishnu. It would have been the end of the race. And we would have had an announcement that says, the Jamaican is the new Chief Elections Officer. Leslie Harrow is the new Chief Elections Officer of GCOM. But because of the subjectivity which obtains from the commissioners and the chairperson of GCOM, we are left to wait. I think they are going to meet, today's Friday. I think GCOM meets on Fridays. Perhaps they are going to meet today to argue and banter, to hold circus, and then announce. Well, they may or may not announce today who the final pick is. But I want to say this to you guys. Given the fact that the PPP is bent on fixing GCOM, note they said that we have to fix GCOM. We're not going to go to any elections with this set of people. We have to fix GCOM. And fixing GCOM, in my mind, is not just about hiring competent people at GCOM, but hiring people who are going to sing the songs of the PPP and dance to the music of the PPP and corrupt the system as the PPP likes. Keeping that in mind, I am saying to you, do not be surprised if you hear an announcement that says Vishnu Prasad is the final pick for Chief Elections Officer of GCOM. Right? What do you do when you hear such an announcement? What should be done when you hear such an announcement? Because it is obvious an injustice would have taken place. GCOM would have been fixed if you allow such biases to take control of the process. Because at the end of the day, no matter how good the arguments put forward by the coalition, by the opposition commissioners, at the end of the day, when it comes to a vote, the PPP has Claudette in their corner. And so the three PPP commissioners, government commissioners, will vote for Vishnu Prasad. I am putting my head on a block for that. They will vote for Vishnu Prasad. The three opposition commissioners, rightfully, based on his qualification and experience, will vote for Leslie Harrow. Claudette will have the tiebreaker, the casting vote. Listen out. Listen out. Watch and wait. And see where that vote will be cast. See where that vote will be cast. The question which follows is, what will you do? What should Guyanese do? What will the opposition do? What will the politicians do if or when Claudette votes for Vishnu Prasad to be the Chief Elections Officer of this country? Not only is he not qualified, academically and experience-wise, but I do not think that he's ethically qualified. I don't think he has the moral compass to operate in such an important position. if we are to see free and fair elections in this country. And so if they were to select Vishnu Prasad from the inception, you're saying that the election process is tainted because the selection would have been tainted. And so I'm putting you on guard for that. Let's watch as they fix GCOM. Somebody is saying that if Leslie Harrow is selected, you would have to be schooled by the PPP. I am hoping that he has the testicular fortitude. Now we had a dunce named Leonard Soklal. I call him a dunce because if he has been following the discussion, then he would have heard me say that just like when Vishnu Prasad applied for the DCO position, then Chairman Patterson said that Roxanne Myers were eminently qualified. She was most qualified. She came out head and shoulders ahead of Vishnu Prasad in terms of qualification and experience. How then are you coming to ask that question, Suklal? If Myers was qualified. Yes, she was qualified. Much, much more qualified. She got a bachelor's degree. But Vishnu Prasad has a level 5 certificate. And that doesn't substitute for a bachelor's degree. So let's continue the conversation now. Somebody said Leslie Harrow would have to be schooled by the PPP to give them what they want. I am saying I pray to God. Like all Jamaicans, a lot of Jamaicans are stand-up people, you know. They rather die for what I believe in. Their principle. I'm hoping and praying that Mr. Harrow is such a Jamaican. That he got a testicular fortitude, he got a bars, he got a gumption, he got a guts. To tell them his job at GCOM is not to facilitate the PPP, but it's to facilitate free and fair elections. Right? That is what I'm hoping. But let us start by looking at the selection of the Chief Elections Officer based on qualification and experience. And if you look at it based on qualification and experience, the person who should and ought to be selected is Leslie Harrow, a Jamaican, a son of the Caribbean soil. Right? Let's wait and see. What will happen after? That too we will have to wait and see. So that's about fixing GCOM. It's not the only way they're fixing GCOM or they're fixing the elections. And when they finish fixing, that is when you will have the announcement of a date for a local government election. I'll tell you that. Because once they finish fixing, they will want to test their fix to see how it works. And they will test their fix at local government elections. So by the time regional and general elections come around again, they would have already known which screws need tightening. So look out. Fixing GCOM is important. Being vigilant while GCOM is being fixed is even more important. Because when they're done fixing it, they will test it at local government elections. Right? An important point has been made here. Let's hope that Harrow is not an associate of Bruce Golding. Because we know that during the recount, one of the persons in the CARICOM team was the very person who rigged an election in favor of Ralph Gonzalez in SVG. We knew that. Right? A lot of people perhaps didn't know, but many of us knew. That one of the males, was a two-man team? I think so. The male on the CARICOM recount team and fixed and rigged an election in favor of Ralph Gonsalves. And so he was placed on the team by Ralph, who is a good friend and cohort of the PPP cabal. They got things they ain't gonna tell you about every count. For example, Mia. Let's say Professor were running up your mouth. Giles is one of Mia foot soldiers. And she was given specific instructions. She is the only person who wrote that report. She had a major role in submission of that report. And a lot of what was in that report was dictated to her. So, very good point. Somebody needs to investigate the association. Because, like I said, PPP stacked the deck from the beginning. And who is to say that they didn't contact Golin and tell him, hey, send one of your boys to apply. So if we lose it down here, we got a backup catcher. All possible in these things. Right? So when they're done when they're finished fixing the secretariat and fixing GCOM, or while they're doing that, they are also aiming and they're scheming to fix the electoral districts. And that is why they want to divide East Coast or Region 4 into 4 voting blocks. That is why they want to divide it. Because they want to gerrymander. They want to put the boundaries in such a way that the majority of the districts will be won by them. They will divide it in such a way that their strongholds dominate the districts, and so they will win Region 4, because Region 4 is critical to winning the elections. You either rig Region 4 to win a large section of it, or you lose the election, unless you could win it fairly. And that is what the PPP knows, and that is what they are setting out to do. Gerrymander Region 4 so that they can win it and win the elections. Like I said, when they are finished fixing GCOM, unless people stand up and be strong, we are going to end up with a one-party state, because they're going to shut out the other political parties from winning any election in this country. And Guyanese must guard against that, because you see what the PPP in government is about. It's not about the people. It's about friends and cronies and the haves, while the have-nots suffer. You want me to tell you what else they're doing to gerrymander? They know that they got regions like Region 6 locked in terms of support. They get more than enough votes to win Region 6. And so what they are now doing with land distribution is giving residents of Region 6 lands in Region 4. So they're bringing away the excess support from Region 6 and plant them in Region 4 in order to reduce the margin of victory for the coalition in this region, or win it outright. And that's a part of their gerrymandering, and people need to pay attention to those things. What is the opposition's response? Time will tell. Congress is tomorrow. Congress is tomorrow. Well, up until now, Congress is tomorrow, because I understand the report has been submitted. Vincent Alexander was invited to examine the processes and the systems in place for Congress tomorrow and make a pronouncement on it. And based on information received, I think via the press, Vincent is saying postpone Congress until the 18th. Give it another week, because there are some things which are critical to the process that have not yet been put in place. And while you're saying you can do it in short order, it is best to give it a week to ensure that it is done, and then you proceed with Congress. So there are 2 dates which are now being proposed for Congress: the 18th and the 19th. Right? The 18th and the 19th. And so, if Congress is not tomorrow, Congress is likely to be on the 18th or the 19th. I'm hearing that Congress is not tomorrow. So let's look to the 18th and the 19th. And so I really believe we need to get Congress out of the way. We really need to get Congress out of the way. Because a lot is riding on what comes out of Congress. Right? There's some very important things which must be first on the list of whoever emerges leader of the PNC after Congress. And one of the things I think is paying attention to what the PPP is doing to gerrymander votes. They're moving people from Region 6 to Region 4. And I'm told that they're doing similar things in Region 10. In that they're moving people maybe from Region 3 or wherever into Region 10 to reduce the margin of victory for the coalition in those regions with the hope of negating those victories so that they can continue to win elections and win them and control the state for thy kingdom come. Good. It is now 8 hours 5 and the lines are open. 6225933 is the number to call. Let's talk about fixing GCOM. Let's also talk about fixing the drainage situation in this country, because I want to know what's happening in your neck of the woods. Are you flooded? Is the water rising? Are the pumps in your area working? Those are some of the things I would like to know. Caller Live, good morning.
Hello?
Good morning, caller.
Morning, Kadaki. Great program. In reference to GCOM, you asked the question if the out of the two CEO candidate, if the one with the least experience is picked, what would Guyanese do? What would the APNU commissioners do, and what would the people do? Here's my take on that. If the lesser of the two candidates, which is the Indian PPP designated commissioner, if he is selected, the Guyanese people are not going to do anything. The commissioners that are on the APNU side will not do anything. What they should do is all resign if he's selected. And basically, what would the APNU do? I don't believe they'll do nothing. So it's nothing will happen, because nothing have happened before with all the other stuff that have taken place. So why would we expect anything different? Nothing will happen.
You want me to ask you something, caller? Or let me ask you something?
Yeah, sure.
If you were to be given a constitutional office job, a job as a constitutional office holder, and based on the position you hold, it is a position for life, is there anything that will cause you to resign it?
You gotta have a life principle.
You sure you will give up your job because of principle?
Well, going along, it is a tough sell, but
God, it's okay. You can move ahead.
It's a tough sell.
Okay, sir.
You gotta look at everything, and those jobs are not for life.
Yes, they are.
They are?
Yes.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yes, they are. As far as I know, a commissioner from GCOM can only be removed by death or resignation. I stand to be corrected, but that's what I think I know. Call Live, good morning. Call Live, good morning. Morning to you. when we remember Zion. So let the words from our mouths and the meditation of our hearts be acceptable in thy sight. Morning, neighbor, morning. Welcome to another program of BUXTONIAN Morning Time. I'm your host, Kidaki Amsterdam. It is now 7 hours 12 on the 15th day of December in the year 2021. Yes, it's the middle of the month. It is when people start catching a frenzy. Christmas is next week. Oh God, I ain't done the Christmas shopping yet. I never cleaned this house. Them children, this is sheer stress. Since last week, I tell them clean their room. I tell them start cobwebbing. Yes. By this time, a lot of people are stressing over their preparations to Christmas. And they're stressing because one of the things which they do is that they leave the muck in place all year round. They give you a slam dash all year round. They pick up the broom and and so on and so forth. And so they allow the muck to build up all year round. And then when you get to this time of the year, they suddenly realize, as they say, cleanliness is next to godliness. And so it is time to clean the place and spruce it up and make it look bright again, because we're going to have a good time. Right? It's Christmas time. We must have a good time. And so, yes, that is what is happening. It's not only happening in the homes and in communities, it's happening nationally. It is happening nationally. By this time, the ministries are planning how they are going to ensure that the people that they enslaved and treated like slaves and treated like outcasts all year round will go home feeling that they are beloved by their employers, both private and public sector employers. Yes, around this time, Christmas parties are being planned. And in cases where there are no Christmas parties, they're planning how to give you a small piece or a hamper or a gift voucher. Right? One of the things I know with gift vouchers is that they ensure that the money stays in the loop. The gift vouchers are always from some place or to some place that are enabling the cabal. So look out, you're going to see lots of gift vouchers in workplaces if you haven't started getting them as yet. I remember the gift vouchers that Prestataria Gal had given. $15,000 for photographs here and there. $4,000 for shoes there and here. Right, that's what they do. This is the time when a lot of money is going to be channeled to the enablers of this cabal. And while the public servants, majority black public servants, will think that, hey, we get in actuality, you're not getting anything. You haven't gotten anything, because these one-off gifts are now for now. They don't have a long-lasting impact on your life and your well-being and the lives of your children and your next generations. They don't. Because, as we like to say in this country, food, let's joke. When you eat it in 8 hours, you shit it out. Yeah, strong language. Right? You eat that, it is processed, and then it is expelled from your body. Some will argue that it has a long-lasting impact on your nutrition. But let's talk about long-lasting impact on these gifts. If you're looking for long-lasting impact, you have to be given gifts that are capital in nature. Gifts that can form capital. Gifts that can acquire capital. I'll stop coming on this program with a guilt trip. I didn't ask anybody who just wait till year end for clean them up. I made my statement. Morning, y'all. Morning. Brenda Casey, how you doing, y'all? Lynette Fraser, morning. Yes. If you want meaningful gifts, or if your employers want to give you gifts, and they're genuine in giving you gifts, let them give you gifts that are tangible. Gifts that will make a real difference in your life. This administration says, in lieu of Christmas party, in place of Christmas parties, we are going to give you $7,000 each. And I want to take your bet. That is not across the public service. That is not across the public service. There is going to be some obscured criteria that will determine whether or not you get $7,000 as a gift in lieu of your Christmas party. One of our viewers we were having a discussion on this thing. An individual took umbrage at the fact that the government is giving $7,000 in lieu of Christmas party. Well, my immediate response was, I'd rather $7,000 than a Christmas party. Because I will go to the Christmas party, I will eat, I will drink, maybe as much as I can eat and drink, depending on how lavish the party is. But it will cost me a whole lot to prepare to go to the party. You gotta look good, you gotta smell good, and all of that. And so it will cost you a lot more than $7,000 to go to the party. To eat little free food and drink little free liquor and so on. I'd rather stay in my corner and get $7,000. But what if you pointed out is that while that makes a lot of sense, the government can and should offer more than $7,000 in lieu of Christmas parties. We are an oil-producing state, we got access to money. That's one of the arguments. I can support that argument by saying this. If they were to host a Christmas party, or when they host Christmas parties, or functions, whatever they call them, they spend more than $7,000 per person. When you factor in the cost of the venue, and the cost of the liquor, and the cost of the food, and decorations, and everything, they spend way more than $7,000 per person. And so, yes, I'm in agreement. They can offer and should give more than $7,000. But y'all, they're bad. Any little handout, $35 US, any little handout is nice time in the eyes, in the mindset of the cabal which runs this country and manages its resources. But when they are throwing, while they are throwing pittances to the public servants, they are doing wonders. They are doing wonders. In there are other communities where they have their strongholds. What is they doing? We continue to talk about the discriminatory nature in which this government manages the country's resources. Right? And so let's talk about that. They're giving you $7,000 in lieu of parties. What you do with that $7,000 is, quite frankly, your business. Maybe it will ensure some people get pepper pot and A pound of black cake might be $7,000 for all you know. Right? But that aside, I received information that says only the police and the military, joint services, will receive tax-free payments at the end of this year. Tax-free payments at the end of this year. You know, they usually butter up the joint services and so on with a tax-free 1 month salary bonus. I understand it's back in the loop. So the police and soldiers and so on can look forward to that bribe. Why do I call it bribe? Because look around the world and you will recognize that when a nation is being treated badly by its government or by its politicians, the joint services, mainly the army, steps in and rectifies the situation or attempts to rectify the situation. They speak up in defense of their citizens, their fellow citizens. But in Guyana, don't expect that from the military. Don't expect that from the police. In places like Jamaica and so on, the police stand down. They're going strike too. Right? But in Guyana, don't expect it. Because many of those in the military and in the army are of the opinion that they are living a better quality of life. And they're more favored by the cabal than the ordinary citizen. Right? And what gives them a better quality of life? A one-off 1 month salary bonus at the end of the year, a freedom to be corrupt and abusive of other citizens without having to face the law. Good? That is what gives them a better quality of life. And so for as long as the government, the cabal allows them to be corrupt, as long as they can expect a 1 month bonus at the end of the year, they're good with that. As long as they can jump on the patrol vehicle day or night and go into a community and harass somebody and get a raise, they're good with that. That was the other citizens. And so the government will always continue that they're good by allowing them those freedoms. Yes, the government are facilitators of crime. And so they keep them quiet. So don't expect them to stand up for anything for you. But they are going to get their 1 month bonus, tax-free. While you're going to receive your $2,000 a month back pay, or approximately $2,000 a month back pay, with taxes on it. And while the police and soldiers tell themselves, the majority black police and soldiers tell themselves that they're better off than the average citizen. The people who are really better off than the average citizens are those in the PPP stronghold and those who are enabling the PPP. For example, those who are PYO members, Progressive Youth Organization members, those who live in a certain geographic area of this country. Let me tell you all something. Credible sources have informed me that in Region 6, PYO members were used to identify farmers who were to benefit from quote-unquote flood relief. Now usually, The task of identifying farmers who suffered as a result of flood or any other catastrophic event falls to extension officers. The Ministry of Agriculture employs extension officers, right? Employs extension officers. They liaise with farmers all year round. Farmers have a problem, they contact them, they work together, they find solutions and so on. Farmers, they give guidance to farmers all year round. So they usually know who the farmers are and things like the size of the farms and so on. And so if it comes to an assessment of flood relief, the extension officers have that information and can work with the farmer to make a proper presentation and in terms of what was lost, a proper assessment and so on. But in Region 5 and 6, the PPP sidelined the agricultural officers, the extension officers, and they gave that task to PYO members, Progressive Youth Officers members, PYO, Progressive Youth Organization. The PYO is the youth arm of the PPP. And so they give it to the youth arm of the PPP members. They give it to them to do this work, this assessment. What is the end result? The end result is that many farmers who are bona fide farmers did not receive a fair assessment of their losses, and in some instances did not receive any assessment. So some of them received compensation for their losses, others received no compensation, and yet there are others who received compensation that was not adequately calculated or fairly calculated. Keep that in mind. My information is that approximately 100 PYO members were employed in Regions 5 and 6 to do this assessment. And at the end of the day, the amount of money that was paid out to the PYO members who did this assessment amounted to more than what the farmers got for their losses. I'm told that the PYO members raked in anywhere between $200 and $300 million. You hear what I'm saying? $200 to $300 million, Guyanese dollars, taxpayers' money, was paid out to the members of the PYO for doing this. Many of the PYO officers, PYO members doing the assessment got far more money than the farmers who actually lost, who actually suffered a loss. And so here it is. The PPP again is using the country's resources to enrich its cohorts, its enablers, at the expense of citizens who are really suffering from losses and so on in this society. But don't expect anything to be said about it. Certainly not in the National Assembly. You ain't got no voice in the National Assembly. Right? Don't expect the opposition to make a big furore about it. They ain't got time for that. It's two things we're looking after now, Congress and Christmas. Both of them got seized. We ain't got time with anything else. Anything else can wait on the back burner. But this is what is happening. While public servants are receiving chicken feed money, like we call it, even in lieu of parties. The enablers of the PPP and those who the PPP wishes to keep happy are receiving big money. $250,000 to people who have already gotten their severance pay. That was paid out last weekend. $200 to $300 million paid out to PYO members for assessing flood damage in regions 5 and 6. Many of them receiving more money than the farmers who actually suffered the losses. $7,000 in lieu of Christmas parties to public servants in agencies where funds are available. But turn a fly on the wall and look for the gift packages which ministers and their assistants and their concubines and their minions will be taking home. No minister will go home with a $7,000 voucher. No minister's assistant will go home with a $7,000 voucher in lieu of party. As a matter of fact, I guarantee you they will be partying. Many of them at Sleep In and Palm Court and so on. And the bills will be sent to the ministry on the backs of the taxpayers. Keep that in mind. But it's Christmas and it's Congress. We ain't got time with that. Good? It is now 7:34. And let us talk about rape. A lot of people don't like hear that word rape. It conjures up everything bad in the humankind. And let us talk about racism. Again, a lot of people don't like to hear about racism because it brings back bad memories and it paints a bad picture of humankind. But yesterday we learned of a letter written by someone named Roy Gokul. Yes, that's the name, Roy Gokul. To the president of the university that Dr. Hines lectures at. And according to that letter, Gokul argues that Dr. Hines is a racist because he has made it public that he likes his race most. He didn't say that he hates other races. He simply said he likes his race most. He likes all races, but he likes his race most, and that made him a racist. Gokul went on to say that Dr. Hines is a racist because he embraces black people such as Rickford Burke, Sherrod Duncan, and Mark Benchcap. He embraces them. And he calls them brothers. And so, because he calls people who look like him, maybe suffer some of the same consequences he suffers or suffered, are in the struggle in defense of black people in this country, and they're down-pressed in this country, because I'm sure Dr. Hines' struggle is not only for black people. It might be focused on the inequities which are affecting black people in the majority. But every other ethnic group benefits from the resolution of these issues. He's racist for that. He's racist because in Guyana, black people are majority public servants. They control most of the public service jobs. They have a lot of freedom. They can do as they like. Right? They can do as they like. Including raping Indian women without consequence. In Guyana, 2021. Well, let's talk about racism and rape. If I'm racist, if Dr. Hines is racist for loving those of his ilk more than he loves others, so let it be. I would choose that too. Because I love my people more than I love anyone else. I love my children. I love all children. But I love my children more than I love anybody else's children. As old people say, me not sure me bad for nobody good. So if you were to listen to Goku, it would seem as though to avoid being considered racist or a hater in general, you have to profess a love for other people other than yourself, for people other than yourself. And so long as you don't put anybody above you, you are racist. Well, those of us who are black and proud, and those of us who are willing to stand up and fight for the right of citizens in this country who are being oppressed by this cabal, who happen to be the majority black, will wear that label, that banner, with pride. Call us racist. You see, the PPP over the years have come to understand one thing about black leaders in particular. Majority black leaders. If you want to shut them up, call them racist. Black people don't like to be called racist. Black people like to profess their love and show their embracing of others. They don't like to be called racist. So if you want to shut them up, if you want to put them in a spot, if you want them to cower in fear, call them racist. But all of us are not like that. Some of us are woke enough to understand the psychological warfare. And that is what it is. Psychological warfare. Remember when the coalition was going after certain miscreants left behind by the past administration. All the Jack Dio cabal had to say from Freedom House is that the coalition is on a witch hunt against Indian people. It is racist. And just as the campaign to rid the public service, especially of the miscreants, started, it stopped. Because leaders in the coalition were not happy, couldn't deal with being called racist. And when it happened, I told a few friends of mine, including, God rest the dead, they say, Imran Khan. I said the coalition got y'all. I mean the PPP got y'all. They know. Black leaders don't like to be called racist. Whether they're guilty or otherwise. Once you call them racist, they will shut up. They will change course. The PPP always does it. Because they've always done it in the past and it has worked for them. This is 2021. There's some of us who don't give three hoots about who consider us racist. Because we recognize the importance of standing up for what is right and what is just. And since it affects majority black people, we have to speak in the name of black people to confront this injustice. But let us talk about racism. Race hate is promoted continuously in this country by the PPP and Indo-Guyanese. Not all Indo-Guyanese, but usually when a social scientist speaks, he speaks broadly, meaning the majority. So I don't have to stop to say majority Indo-Guyanese. I say Indo-Guyanese. You take it as the majority. There are exceptions to the rule. Race hate is inbred. As a part of the psyche of the average Indo-Guyanese. From birth, they paint the black man, the African man, as the bogeyman. They tell their children, if their children are misbehaving, behave yourself. When we call a black man like Kayewe, you hear me? Behave yourself. When we call a black man. And so they teach their children to fear and despise black people. As they grow, many of their children, like every child, get attracted to children because they're people. But they get pulled aside. The black man, are you friend? What you do with the black man there? Because in their eyes, black people are lesser than they are. And so they keep teaching their children to despise black people, to hate black people for all kinds of reasons. Because black man got kidnapped by you. Black man a bully. Black man want everything for themselves. And that's what they teach their children. You see a black man, I got it. Not trust him. They smile in your face and behind your back, they put a dagger. I've been among them. I've seen them. Black man hungry belly. You know why they say that? Or how they justify that? Every opportunity they get, they offer you something. There are many of us who can't resist an offer. One baby cook dal and rice today, want some? And out of the kindness of our hearts, out of our humanity, black people generally don't like hurt other people's feelings. And so you might not want dollar rice, but you want to be nice to your neighbor or your friend. Or somebody you consider your neighbor or your friend. All right, man, I'm going to take some, no problem. And you're so nice, you're always nice, and they always offer you, and you always accept. And they form their opinion. Every time I offer a black man food, he take him. A hungry belly black man. I never come help me do this thing now. Me want to try this thing, but them buy it home. Out of the goodness of your heart. But that helps them to fashion in their minds. A black man I want jankalar. That's how they bring their children up. You want something bad done? Call one black man. And many of us, support the outlook because we are always willing to help. We're always willing to accept. We're always willing to be nice. And say they paint us all with this broad brush. And the myths live on. I been a want with that to marry no black man because them black man hungry belly, them not like work. Every day them go shop go buy 2 pounds sugar. I heard Indians say that. As a matter of fact, I know of an Indian guy who had a black friend, or at least the friend thought he was a friend. Considered him a good friend. And he set eyes on his sister. The Indian guy's sister. And they started dating. And that is where the fallout came. Because the Indian guy didn't want the black guy to date his sister, regardless how much body friend they be. And at the end of the day, it came down to that. Me no want no black man take me sissy and punish she. Black man is punish and you go punish me sissy. Because that is what they taught from the cradle to the grave. That black people are inferior to them. That is racism. There's so many other examples, but I want to give it to you as raw as that. That is racism. I have Indian friends. At least I consider them my friends. I'm sure many of them consider me your friends. But just as I do with black people, I do with Indians. Me not licky. Me not eat about. Me never want. Me always just done it. No matter me hungry. Thank God, my children have the same attitude. They could go to their relatives' home and they're never hungry, even if they're hungry. Some of us need to adopt that attitude. Black man always want one handout. And it is that mentality, that mindset, black man always want one handout. That is why the government treats us the way they treat us. That is why the police can always get a handout at the end of the year instead of meaningful wages and salaries increase. That is why the public servants can be given a handout, a pittance at the end of the year instead of meaning salary and wages increase. Because they always want a handout. That is why the union leaders and representatives can be controlled, because they always want a handout. Here how it goes. Why you want a duty-free concession means a union rep, means a sharp stroke. I'm going to go and ask the finance minister, or I'm going to ask the labor minister if they can set up a duty-free allowance for me. That's where they want you. And you get your duty-free allowance. And you think that you are above the workers that you represent. You're now driving car. But you have just compromised the ground on which you could have stood for your workers. Because when you go to that negotiation table next time around, you will be reminded that we were nice to you. We got you a car. And so you're caught up now in servitude. I gotta respect these people. These people, they got me a duty-free concession. And if I don't play nice, they can withdraw it, or next time around, I can't get any. And so you compromise your position and that of the workers because you always look for a handout. Some of us are guilty as hell for putting us in these difficult situations. Patrick Yard, Mark Light, they can't go negotiate with the government with any strength because they fell trap. Like it is in the Indian psyche, they offered them gifts and they accepted and fell into that trap. The snare was already there and they will always do it. And they got some black man who not land. And so here again we are at the end of the year. People taking handouts. While the cabal and the enablers cut away the cream of the wealth of this country. Racism is part of the reason why public servants are treated the way they are treated. Why black employees in the private sector are treated the way they are treated. Because Indians have it in their psyche. From the cradle to the grave, they have been taught that they're superior to black people. You are a racist when you tell yourself that you're superior to another ethnic group. That is racism. I've not heard it from Dr. Hines. I've not heard it from Mark Benchcap. I've not heard it from Sherrod Duncan. I've not heard it from Richard Burke that they're superior to any Indo-Guyanese. But Goku calls them racist. And in particular, he calls Dr. Hines racist. And to prove his case, he says Dr. Hines is racist because he fights for black people. Black people who have all the freedom in this country. But yet, hundreds of them were dismissed from the public service where Goku says they control the majority jobs. Hundreds of them were dismissed without due consideration or reasons when the cabal took office. And they remain dismissed and they have not been compensated with a dime. All they receive is what they were due in terms of wages and salaries and maybe other benefits up to the time of their dismissal. They ain't get no severance pay and they ain't get $250,000 because they're out of work. They ain't get $250,000 grants. Many of them are still holding pink slips. But yet they have so much freedom in this country. Many of them can't get approval for certain kinds of businesses in this country. A few of them who were granted approval for certain kinds of businesses in this country, like fuel importation, while the coalition was in office, had their licenses taken away immediately after the cabal took over. Many of them who were given lands integral to the growth and development of their businesses like Sivan's Waste Management and Carcare Enterprise and so on, were given hell to keep those lands because attempts were made to take them away when the cabal came. But Guyanese, black Afro-Guyanese have so much freedom in this country and they can do as they like according to Gokul. But they can't open businesses in certain sectors. Very few of them, if any at all, almost none of them, have a stake in the oil sector, whether onshore or offshore services. Because entry into that sector is made difficult for them. import-export, entry into that sector is made difficult for them. And that is why we usually ask where is the alternative when we say boycott. That is why the Indians dominate and the Portuguese dominate. Historically, you will see that a plantocracy, the colonial masters, had on the books, if they have been removed, laws were on the books to prevent black people getting into certain sectors of the economy and to give an unfair advantage to the Portuguese, for example. In the import business. And so up until now, black people are facing those upward challenges. But black people got all the freedom according to Voodoo, including the freedom to rape. Well, let me talk about rape. Y'all want to talk about rape? Let's talk about rape. Since I was a little boy growing up, and the evidence is still there, that rape is cultural to the Indians. Note I said it is cultural to the Indians. Whether it is statutory rape or other forms of rape, it is cultural to Indians. It starts in the homes, many homes, it starts there. Incest is rape. Fathers deciding, a me make them, a me mind them, a me have them. They must get first touch of the underage children. Is incest, but is rape. And they cover it down. Because be family secret. I mean, I want nobody know. Then go cuss me. Now go station. Are you daddy? It happens across this country. Many Indian families can tell you about it. Per capita, I guarantee there is more rape among Indians than there is among black people. Whether perpetrated on the other people or their own people. I guarantee you that. Go check the records. Just as how suicide is dominant among Indians, sometimes you need to find out the reasons behind those suicides. We don't confront these issues. We don't talk about them. We don't like to talk about them. Because many of us don't want to be called racist. But if you're going to drop it at the door, one more, let's talk about it. Last week, God rest the dead, my sympathies to the family. There was a murder in Lusignan or somewhere, an Indian community, where a man strangled his spouse. He choked her to death. If you look, if you follow the story, you will understand that rape was involved. If I remember clearly, he might be 43. She started something. Let's say she's 37. They had a 25-year-old relationship. But when you did the calculation, she and that man, and all the men that she is, none of my business. But let me talk about rape. He's older than she is. But when you do the math, the two of them became involved in that relationship when she was mere 13 years old. She was only 14, below the age of consent. Yes, she was 38, and they had a 25-year relationship. And he was older than she is, much older too. And at the end of the day, he chokes you to death. Rape was involved. She was only 13. And the possibility is, rape started the relationship. And in many of these Indian communities, that is what happens. Then somebody rape them girl. Their parents come together and say, let we marry them. Now let we go station. You not gonna look good. Now let my son go to jail. Me beg you better. Let me settle up. Let me marry them. Quick time they get a bamboo wedding. You want me talk? Let me talk. You like to tell black people, you get your mother all over the place and so on. Indians got your mother all over the place too. Black men are like married. Black men may not be married. They might live home. But Indians just live home too. But the thing is, when black people are honest about their marital arrangements, we live in home, we ain't married. Indians say, I'm your husband. And we married under bamboo. There's no legality. There's no more entitlement marrying under bamboo than there is living home. Jagdio married under bamboo. And the nation came to realize, that was a big farce. Because they ain't got no legality on the marriage on the bamboo. And he never legalized it because he never registered it. So Jagdi was president of this country, they live in home like any other black man. Where the cost there? Where the cost there? Rape you're talking about? The young ladies of Edmore and Enterprise will tell you that anytime after 5:30 or 6 in the afternoon, they dare not walk those roads alone. Ask them. Go Edmore, go find out. Go Enterprise, go find out. Those young ladies prefer to stay at the park till Die Kingdom come. Forget one bus to carry them in an Enterprise or in an more. Because when them go a public road after certain hour when them can't get a taxi, then they are not walking. What happens? They are snatched by their own and raped. Y'all hear what me say? Rape is an Indian cultural thing. Check on the international scene. Indian women are raped in the streets of India. And they dare not complain because they get stoned to death in this 2021 year. And Gokul has the temerity to talk about blacks raping Indians in this country without consequence. Bring the evidence. Bring it. Bring it. That is how they stereotype us. That is what they use to set the minds of their children against us, to see us as lesser beings. They're barbaric. They're bullies. They're thieves. They don't like work. They like children murder all over the place. And let's address those stereotypes and see where they rightfully belong. See where they rightfully belong. You want to know a story? You go and talk with some Indian girls or women who have relationships with black men. There's some who have been strong enough to walk away from their relatives despite all that they tell them. Despite how much they outcast them, they've been strong enough to start and maintain relationship with black people, black men. And you go and talk with them and they will tell you, for the greater part, they are treated better than black men, better by black men than they treated or they were treated with Indian men, men of their own type. Go find that out. Ask them why they chose to leave their own kind and go and start relationship with blacks. They will detail for you a history of being raped and abused by their own type. And the love with which they are treated by black men. Rape and abuse you are talking about? I heard an Indian woman say, the man call a man done with you, you're not good for nothing. Even ants can't find juice by you. Let's be honest. Respect for women, or disrespect for women rather, check the Indian community. Check the Indian community. Rape has been on show by Indians in this country, Indians in high society, Indians in government. You remember, you had a minister of government who impregnated a 13-year-old Amerindian girl. You remember? Public outcry. Bar Jagdeo removed him from office, but kept him in the bosom of the government. Rapist culture. Sexual abuse is cultural. Incest is cultural among the Indians. I'm not saying rape doesn't take place in every other ethnic group. It takes place. Human frailties, but per capita, almost as a norm. You check the Indian community. So Gokul, I think your LinkedIn said you are an analyst. You need to start analyzing the facts and present them. Present your findings accurately. Don't bring that at our door. We don't have freedom in this country. We don't have freedom to be employed according to our qualification. Recent example, a Jamaican eminently qualified, heads and shoulders above Vishnu Prasad at GCOM, but he didn't get the job. He didn't get the job. People like Mark Bino, people like Vince Adams, unmatched in their qualification and experience in the areas where they worked. They were removed, unceremoniously removed, dismissed by this cabal. And replaced by people who are lesser qualified than they are. And you check throughout the country and you will see that. What freedom is Gokul talking about? Brings to mind the other one who said that black people are representative in their numbers in the PPP government, because if you look at the population spread, they are represented in the government according to the percentage in the population. Even if those numbers are representative, let us investigate the impact of their presence. Let us investigate the freedom with which they have to make decisions. You got a foreign minister named Hugh Todd. He can do nothing without consulting Jagdeo and Ali. He dares not put his signature to anything without their okay. We could talk the thing. Go cool, go back, do your research, bring the data, and let us talk about freedom and rape. Racism and rape. Racists and rapists. It is now 8 hours 12. The lines are open. 6225933 is the number to call. You're tuned to the Buxtonian Morning Time. You're live. Good morning. Your volume low. Let me see if I can get it up. All right, Joe, don't fret. Go ahead, you're live.
Topic that you choose this morning it's good because those things that you have shown out there and are talking about, it is so true. Because you know my occupation, I don't have to say it anymore. And in my years of working as a nurse, I came across many cases where you knew that incest was being involved in the Indian faction of the people of Guyana. We don't say there is not rape in the black people, the African communities, but it is not as alarming as the rape in the Kogi people place. And that thing when you talk about fathers first having sexual relationships with the daughters, it is so true. Because when these women, because they are in marriages at a tender age, and they get into it at a certain time when they have gotten children, and the children get big, these wives will remove from the bedroom of the husbands. One, sexual quality is not there. Two, they are tired and fed up with the stress of this man. So when they get the children get big, and they start to get grandchildren, they remove themselves from the bedroom. Remember, the man still has his sexual needs, and who he will attack? Anybody who he could get. So if his child, his grandchild will have to suffice what the mothers do not condone it. So when this man, you know, when you listen to these people who try to denigrate or degrade the Africans in Guyana because of the installed regime, they only put themselves up to be exposed for who they are. Because the other day they want to talk about role model. When we start to give role models, it's another problem. Now look where he jump and talk about races. We have got to like ourselves. The Bible that said, love thy neighbor as thyself. Wrong bank. I like myself more than my neighbor because I just work hard. And if I got a neighbor who ain't working hard as I am, you think I gonna take what I got and give it to a neighbor for come up in the Bible thing, love thy neighbor as yourself, and the neighbor cock up and they want to work? The hell to the no. So when they talk, they try to degrade us. And they don't say, where cause live, and they just come out. And they know that they have their infirmities and their infractions and all the bad things. And as an let me put it at them African though, because they talk about us being lazy. They talk about us not having monies. Right now, the main business areas, they are in a typical frenzy because the lazy, the not working black man, we used to save all we got and go and spend on them. Stop spending it with them. So right now, they're losing it. And it's going to be a time when these same vocal, you were talking a lot of stupidness, they're going to aim the anger and turn it right back into the PPP camp. So let them enjoy themselves. And if Dr. Hines is a racist, kudos to him. Dr. Hines, you gotta like me people. You gotta like yourself first. When you love yourself, then you could share this pill over to anybody who's passing around. Because I like myself. And I ain't gonna give away myself to no other race. To say I like them above me. No, Kadaki. You know the situation that I have told you about. I have told you certain things. You know about it. And I don't care who said what. I like me. I like black people. That is my topic today. Bye-bye.
Thank you. The lines remain open. 622-5933 is the number to call. You tune to the BUXTONIAN Morning Time. We're talking rapists and racists. Let's talk about that. Rapists and racists. Gokul introduced the topic. Let's talk about it. These folks believe that they can attack our leaders and in all of their what should I say, magnanimity. Don't respond. There's some of us who can respond on their behalf. Let me say that. The Freddie Kissoons and all of them who like attack black people either, they got people who could respond. So welcome to the club, Gokul. Let's talk about rape and racists. Lines are open 622-5933. Y'all remember Strap and Strip Berry? You think it was just a slip of the tongue that Berry said I would have my women slap you and strip you? You think it was just a slip of the tongue? You think he was drunk? I mean, or people say a drunken tongue reveals the conceptions of a sober mind. But Berry was bold enough to say in public, I will have my women slap you and strip you. Why? It's in it. It's in the mindset. Colonel Live, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Kalaki. Good morning to our listeners. Listen, black people, we grow with racism, right? That's why when the people talk about black people being racist, we get vexed. Because we grow so, right? You might be sitting at a table, right, with a couple Indians and a couple blacks. And that one or two Indian man would say, the black man, you not like the black man. The black man, I do we something, we can't take him, and all these things, right? If you got to call an Indian brother or our Koli brother, whatever you want to call it, you would say Indian. You would not say Koli. Right, you would say Indian, right? Being grosser, and you look at it. The Indian man, you and he is partner, you and he is the best of friend because he could get something from you. he go drop under you because he see that okay, you're a good workman or whatever it is, and he don't like you, right? He might not be 100% genuine. He might not be genuine, but he drop under you because he could get something from you. You look at Ramjitan. I feel that Ramjitan got a card with both sides, right? One for the coalition and one for the PVP, right? So we didn't grow that way. And this thing about rape, you check at it. It starts right in India, and it trickles down to the Caribbean. That's my take. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. You know, when a scholar talk about relationship with blacks and Indians, how they adore you because you have a certain skill and so on. You know what came to mind? Uncle Adam, morning Adam Harris. How you do? I will be sharing drinks with Glenn Lell for the holidays. Y'all remember what was done to Adam Harris? Years after being in the employ and on the right hand of Glenn Lell. Listen, I've seen it all. No, I have not seen it all. I've seen a lot of it. And so I say, like I usually say, when I speak from experience. I'm a good observer. Just like the social scientists don't always got to go wrong with a questionnaire and so on, you know. They got different methods of investigation. I like observation. Hold on, wait. The lines are open. 6225933 is the number to call. 6225933. Some of y'all, let me play these voice notes.
Hi, morning, Gaddafi. Only the other day, a man was telling us the same thing. He said, he's 74 years old, and I could tell y'all. He said, rape, father sleeping with daughter, that was never a black man sickness. He said, no black people, black men buy over dog. He said, let me tell you. He said, that is how the Indians are it. He said, that sickness and the course is from the Indians. He said, he getting so crazy how black men doing it now, sleeping with their daughters, raping. He said, that is an Indian sickness. Father sleeping with daughter, raping their own daughters. And I was like, really? He said, yes. He said, girl, how old are you? He said, how old is you? It's, I gotta tell you. And I was like, wow. The topic was how these fathers or these men raping these little children. He said, let me tell you, that is what I buy from the Indian. The sickness. He said it starts with Indians. This topic here you bring up this morning, there was a topic the other day. A big man was telling us. He said, rape.
Call your live, good morning. Thank you for holding.
Yes, Mr. Kadaki and listeners, good morning. Are you hearing me?
Yes, loudly.
Okay. Now, I'm of mixed ethnicity. I have my father's father is of Chinese ethnicity, pure Chinese. My father's mother is Afro-Guyanese. My mother's father, Indo-Guyanese, and her mother is, as they would say, red nigger, local Guyanese terms. She's mixed with Portuguese, black, and so on. Now, my mother told, not my mother, my grandfather, who's a Narayan from Freedom Newport, somewhere over that side, because I and my, not only me, but my siblings and my aunts and uncles and so on, we don't know anything much about the Indian side of the family because they sound, and this has to do with what Mr. Boudou, that letter that Mr. Boudou wrote They disowned my grandfather's relatives and his parents, disowned my grandfather after he took my grandmother because she wasn't Indian. The next thing, as a child, my mom told us as a child growing up on the west coast of Berbice, what she know of for sure is that the Indian people used to work the black people and give them food and turn around and cuss them and tell them how they're hungry belly. So it's always embedded in them. It's always embedded in them. Thank you, Mr. Kadaki.
Thank you. You're my buddy. You know when you're a good friend, when you're a buddy to an Indian, when you're a strong black man, when you are the bullet black or the blows black, or when you offer protection, they worship you. You have to understand these cultural intricacies, if I can call them that. And let nobody make you nothing. Go cool, come again.
There's nothing else happening in Guyana other than racism. It seems like it's only racism. Every day is racism, 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 black man, coolie man. What happened to the Portuguese, man? Nothing else but racism. Everything. Now we've gone to marriage. God, boss. Find something else. There's good things happening in Guyana. People wake up and breathing. People wake up and going to work. Making money. Come off that race game, boy. You're killing PNC. For real. You're killing the PNC party. You're killing the coalition. Because if there's so much of racism, just racism, 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 AFC is racist then? Come on, buddy. Come on. No one party can win an election without you get the crossover votes. And you're scaring the people, you're scaring them. God. Nothing else. Nothing else. Wake up in the morning and you tell, teach black folks how to make money. Other than telling them like what the Americans saying. The Americans telling the black children, the white man more better than you. And then telling the white children that them black kids don't worth anything. Come on, we need to stop it.
You know what I say? You know why I put on my camera? Because I like y'all see me when I talking. I don't get it. I don't have the fortune of hiding behind any instrument. I like y'all see me. According to this scholar, they got other good things happening in Guyana. They got other good things happening in Guyana. Who are the beneficiaries of the good things? Who are preventing others from enjoying the good things? Right? They said first bell, you don't hear when first bell ring, but you hear when second bell ring. This particular caller didn't call yesterday to talk about Gokul and his nonsense, right? Gokul and his nonsense about black people getting so much freedom in this country that they can rape Indians without consequences. You ask about the Portuguese? I discussed the Portuguese. I said there were laws in this country, if they are still not here, that gave the Portuguese an unfair advantage over black people especially. And other ethnic groups too, in the area of imports in this country. I will wrap that discussion up with one thing. The Portuguese, we don't talk too much about them because I had one word for them, or one term. He said they are the Portuguese mafias. Right? They got their own cabal. And their cabal is in the import sector. And certain other businesses. And so they stay in the corner and they make their money. Good? They got names I can call. They got things I can quote. But I guess you talk about Portuguese because I think you are a Portuguese or the offspring of a Portuguese. But there are good things happening in this country. But how are the good things happening benefiting the majority of the citizens? How are those good things happening benefiting the majority of blacks who make up the public servants? The good things which are happening are benefiting the Indo-Guyanese to the greater part because the PPP cabal is discriminatory in its behavior. And let us talk about that. Right? Racism, we got to talk about it every day. It's the elephant in the room. It is which has Guyana the way it is. And somebody has to talk about it. I ain't looking for crossover votes. Quite frankly, I might be looking for no damn votes. I want equity and equality. I want equality of opportunities and fairness in this country. Let's talk about that. And the votes will fall where they will. So as they say, here's second bell, you didn't hear first bell. Goku introduced the rape discussion. And I know I got the gumption, the balls, the testicular fortitude to continue. Corey Live, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Kadaki. You know, everyone is entitled to their opinion, and you have to give people respect for the opinion, but sometimes you just have to call people fools. I'm sorry, that caller is a fool. If he is living in Guyana, he ought to see that racism is real, and it's something that has to be addressed, because if it's not addressed, the black folks, they live in the gutters for the rest of their lives. So I don't know where he's coming from. I don't know what he's really trying to say, but all I'm going to say that he is a fool and is probably living in an alternate universe. Bye.
Thank you, caller. What went on here? Caller Live, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Kadaki. Good morning, everyone in the diaspora. You know, firstly, I want to say very quickly that we are behind 100% as an athlete. We are being attacked along the lines of dignity. Therefore, Dr. Hines is best qualified to defend us along lines of dignity and African humanity and humanity for all people. We support Dr. Hines and we request his daily advocacy. We support him 100%. Now there's an issue that I want to talk about dealing with Indian caste that was imported to Guyana when the indentures arrived to Guyana, and I call it racial caste politics. The same degradations and derogatory behavior that Indians suffered in India in caste system, when they came to Guyana as the dialects, they began to hurl through those indignations onto Africans, because they learned from the British that somehow these Africans who were slaves or enslaved, they should be looked upon as a lower caste. So Indians began to hurl the caste indignations, which they were running from in India. They began to look on blacks and hurl the indignant behavior towards us as a low caste. That's how misconceived they were, because they come with a preconceived poison of caste. Indians were running from a 1,000-year-old caste system. Now, when Jagan said Harpanjat, that was a Indian caste. I'm talking facts. I'm not making Jagan, who said Harpanjat, East Indians. That's the same as saying Brahmins or Brahmins of the caste system. It is the, he simply termed it in English terms, Jat. But Jagan basically was recognizing the caste of India. Reasons. That's a fact. And Rodney King and Lyndon Forbes Burnham, they were all from Jagan. They were embracing Jagan. It was that when the British didn't want it, he decided to weaponize caste doctrine and call it our Panchat. Just like the Brahmins say, Brahmins are Brahmins. And Dalits are Dalits. One are Kuli for Kuli. So when we talk to Jews race, Jagan was the one. Now we got some hostile people who think they know about economics calling on this show, lecturing people. It appears that someone wants to carry on that kind of snow. And son. Some people want to lecture us business. We gotta talk racism because it's racism that we are under attack. We gotta talk black pride and African dignity because our black pride and our African we have to reassert our Africanness, our African dignity. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with affirming African dignity. Because if you read the United Nations Charter, in the first paragraph, it says, affirm your humanity and dignity. For those who think you're intellectually mind. Okay? Now I want to say quickly, we support for the leadership of the PNC, providing Aubrey Norton does not behave like Harman or put him. We support the answer for chairman because she identified with the grass stuff for chairman. We support Dan Wade for vice chairman because he's been a champion, an advocate, a legal advocate for those who need legal advocacy. On the issue that Vincent Alexander spoke about last night on Politics 101, I applaud Vincent. He's been the issues that Vincent Alexander raised are I want to take this issue on the issue of if my voicemail was. So on the issue of representation, there are 3 PPP, 3 PNP. In democracy, there is a principle of accountability. One person, one vote. I don't see why a PNC person needs for acting. I don't see any Chapman if he's a PNC to be speaking for the WPA interest. I think that KAMSTV is competent enough to represent as a commissioner. I think Dr. Hines competent to represent of the chairman of GCOM. The same thing goes to the PPP. You can't represent me better than I can represent my party's interest. How patience of you could best represent his interests. Does Donald Trump represent the interests of the Democratic Party in Congress? Does Donald Trump push his way and insist that he must represent the Democrats' issue in Congress? That they must have oversight for another third party. The third party present their own selves in GCOM as chairman. That facilitates accountability, facilitates transparency. I could be accountable for myself. You could be accountable for me. One vote that can't represent me better than I could represent my own interest. It's nonsense to have representing other parties. That's the highest insult. You could represent my interest. You could have better than is that inclusive? Is that fair access? Equal access. How can we say that GCOM is functioning and for free and fair election when the system itself of chairman on the boards or commissioners on the board, that itself is biased and uneven. It's uneven. It's prejudicial. It's exclusionary. And I'm not the only one saying that. Professor House at UUE University said that. And she's a political scientist. So that issue months ago when he lambasted Granger. Granger concedes to the WPA. I wonder why. Do you know why? Because there is no way to hold Granger. I'm going to say that the Constitution says that majority parties will consult with minority parties, level of chairman. Consultation quit. I could consent with you, but I don't have to represent you adequately,
Wrap up.
substantively. About a party, whereby they'll be looking at for third party, and it's insufficient. And it's insufficient at the GCOM level. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, caller.
Something up.
Lines remain open. 6225933 is the number to call. We have 50 minutes on the clock. It's now 8 hours 45. Let's play a voice note.
Morning to you and morning to all your listeners, viewers around the world, and especially in Guyana. Now, as one contribution I'd like to make on this voice note is to let Guyanese know that we have to push back against this racial discrimination thing in this country and bring a complete end to it. And the only solution is total destruction. That's what it has been said, and that's what it got to come to. Needless we run away from it. The only solution is total destruction. And this will have to come down from this government here, this installed government.
Caller, we live. The lines remain open. 6225933. Thank you for that voice note. I think there's another one. Frank, to address the elephant in the room. I could be the elephant tamer.
Good morning, Mr. Kadaki. That guy that just called, he just wake up and roll over. You need to roll over back and go back to sleep. Because he talking about we scaring the Indians them. If the Indians them they scared, they wouldn't behave how they behave up in Borbies. Beat the policemen them, tell the girl car and break up showing the scream, tell the nurse car and broke up showing the scream, tell the boss for Mr. Grange to provide for the take the children them to school. Being destructive. And he talking about fighting in the Indian people. He need to go back to sleep.
Call over the line. You know, the guy mentioned the voice notice said, we're talking about this issue and something to the extent that AFC is racist. Well, let me say this to you. The actions which resulted in the downfall of the coalition government was a racist action. And it came from an AFC member. Charandas, listen to Charandas justify his no confidence vote against the coalition government. He talked about the sugar workers. He said he couldn't face his Indo-Guyanese brothers and sisters because of what the coalition did to the sugar industry. Check his justification for what he did was racist. Had nothing to do with economic policies. Because the coalition's move to restructure the sugar industry was based on economics. But he saw it from a racial point of view. And saw it as an attack on Indians. So yes, if you're asking me to label some in the AFC as racist, yes they are. I have no apologies to that. Call it live. Good morning.
Yeah. Good morning, Mr. Kadaki. Good morning, all the viewers around the world. We have to see, right, that Guyana is in a deep, deep trouble. It will not get better because what Claudette Singh them are doing is something planned out that all of them plan everything out what we're going on. And to the long run, they will pay for all what they're doing. All right? Because when people start to rise up on them, I hope, and I say it again, they wouldn't say that black people killing them or entreating them or so. It's them start the whole system going on. Because this thing leading to victimize and people getting wiser and people getting stronger what's going on in Guyana. And when them rise and come to the opposition, we can even control them and stop them. All right? Because people, they and listening and watching and hearing social media, they're all over the world. Right? And everybody listening and watching what's going on. Some people quiet, but they're ready yet. But when they're ready and everything starts uproar, I hope they could take what's going on in Guyana, and a lot of people would not say, well, it's black people do this and black people do that, because we ain't doing nothing. It's them pushing us to do certain things. I can't do the boys nice notes here a while ago. You understand what I'm saying? Mr. Iraqi is a lot of things in Guyana. A lot of people are surprised and see what's going on. All right? Because what these people doing to people is oppressing people all the time down. And they wouldn't like the ending become leader after. I'm not preaching racism, but that's what I see going on. All right, Mr. Kadik.
Thank you. Just call and mention Claudette Singh. Just say Claudette Singh is a result of a mixed race relationship. Y'all could investigate the history. I ain't got time to discuss it. But Claudette Singh said she appointed Vishnu Prasad based on a recommendation from Steve Surge Bali. Singh, Prasad, and Surge Bali, of what ethnicity they are. Considering, what's his name? What's the man's name from Jamaica? Right? That has racial implications. They don't see it? Don't they see the racial implications? A man who is eminently qualified is not given the job. He's Afro. He's black. He's a black Jamaican. And an Indian who is less qualified and less experienced is given the job. We are talking about racism. It exists. It is evident. A lot of people like to be nice. They don't like to call it for what it is. Not me. I ain't got none fight. Who vex lose? Call a life. Good morning.
Season greetings. Good morning, Kadaki, and all of your listening viewers. I wanted to be able to add to your comment about Claudette Singh. And the more we assess and really interrogate the fact that we went through a full process, an assessment of the GCOM chairmanship, as they masqueraded a process before the people, and they indicated that, okay, this is a due process, we are looking for the most qualified person. And excuse me, and then Claudette Singh, at the end of the process, that was supposed to be, in quotations, a very fair, equitable, balanced, objective process, she then comes out and says that she was able to make a decision based on a referral that she got, right? So the entire time, it was already seeded that this decision was already at play. And so what they have done is to insult the Guyanese public, to parade a process, a fraud and a flawed process that truly never existed, because our decision was already preempted. And so people should be really paying attention to the fact that although they claim this was a true equitable process, they brought candidates from both outside of Guyana as well as within Guyana, that Claudette Singh already had a preconceived notion based on the referral that was given to her that she would have ultimately made that decision. And I think it is completely pathetic and insulting for them to gaslight Guyanese people as if we are not woke and we are not intelligent people to see through their BS. Because this entire time, she knew exactly that she was going to result to this particular decision. And she skirted and played around and, quite frankly, respectfully, pimped the Guyanese people into believing that there was a true damn process when a process never truly existed, because that decision was preempted, it was declarative, it was already pre-assessed, it was predetermined, and so what she said, it was exactly the intention of what they had chosen to do way before them coming to the Guyanese public to indicate that they had a process. And it is fully frustrating and insulting to people's intelligence that they would be so darn presumptuous and so full of themselves to be literally being able to present to Guyanese people that this is a result based on an equitable process when they know it's not. It's better they to go and put the blasted man in the position knowing that this was their absolute decision than to be playing around with people's intelligence out here. Thank you so much. Have a blessed day.
Thank you, caller. It is now 5 minutes to the 9 o'clock hour. It means we are approaching wrap-up time. I have some voice notes to play.
I ain't mean scared like that, boss. I ain't mean scared like that.
Call all the line.
With the crossover vote. Because the GCOM thing we are talking about, that what we talking about in here.
Double dipping. Next person. Voice note.
PPP plunging this country into a civil war, and at the end of the
Double
day,
dipping.
Morning, my brother. It's just sad to say it, though, but it's the true reality. When it comes to this racial thing, yeah, I don't know. It's a culture with these Indians. Some of them you see them trying and fighting hard, but it is embedded in them. This is what they were taught. You understand? And the word out that the people had 3 people. The PPP had 3 people in mind. If the no confidence motion and Judas didn't do it, the other 2 names I heard was Amna Ali and Ramjatan. That was the names that were calling. I had 3 people, I didn't have 1. Any one of the 3 would have been able, the people he had in the pocket. So, you know what I mean? Ramjatan doing a lot of things are very shady. He makes some moves and did some utterances he's making, you know? Not to be trusted, you understand? Some of them is try hard and fight to come out it. But at the end of the day, it is revealed itself. Time is the biggest factor. Time is reveal everything with these people. No matter how hard they try. Look only in the protests and thing when the election was done. They had this pandit one, Tilak. Till he show you true colors. No matter how good they try to be, it's embedded in them. You understand? He got pleased his family, so he had to resign from PNC and all this ignorance. They can't help it, and we got to understand that. We can't look for love for people that don't love me. There's appreciate me. You understand? As black people, that's what they do.
Call A Live, good morning. Final one for the day.
Is it my turn?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Good morning. Good morning. Listening. You know, a few calls. A while ago, I have called and I've called for. I've encouraged. I propose that the coalition and other stakeholders in the opposition start to aggressively campaign for the next elections. We could see that the PAP government they have already started the campaign aggressively, because first of all it started by bribing their supporters, the sugar workers and others, and giving them monies from the government's coffer that's supposed to be the money that's supposed to be going to all Guyanese, but we see and they've discriminated against mostly African Guyanese, and they've given it to the supporters. They said it's one form of the campaigning, is the bribery, you know. And now we see they've gotten away by putting their man as the CEO of GCOM, right? And they're going to continue by the next. I think one of the next moves they're going to make is that seeing that their man is the CEO of GCOM, they're gonna call to everyone's agreement. They'll call house registration, and but they will already have their plans there, because what they do, so many they will disenfranchise so many opposition and other supporters in certain areas. They will make it too hard for them to register to vote. And by putting them in places that people can't get to, or calling when days that they can't get people to register, and all sorts of things. They take the gerrymandering to a different level. So that's the next move they will do. They will try to call the South administration, and then with that they will also disadvantage a lot of people, making it difficult for other people to register. In many ways they would do that. So they are campaigning aggressively and also unfairly. And I think that the coalition and other parties involved we need to start our campaign aggressively as well. Thank you.
Thank you, caller.
Morning, my brother. It's just sad to say it though, but it's here.
Yes, it's now 9 hours, 1, and it's time for me to go. Have a good day. Those of you who send me voice notes after you made calls, note I did not play them. Time management is important. Have a good day, y'all. Be safe. Join me tomorrow for another program of BUXTONIAN Morning Time. Thank you for discussing with me racists and rapists. Right? It's very important that we have these conversations. I don't care who vexed. Right? Listen, program time. There are a lot of other things I would like to say, but I can't say them now. Y'all have a good day. We will have a continuation of this